one of the things that Clint Hurdle says that was part of Alvarez's problem last year is that he was doing too much trying to get out of his slump last year. He was overworking himself. So, he showed some signs of life for a little while, and then he's kind of cooled off, and he's gotten back to his ways of last year, where his batting average is still hovering around 200. But he needs to keep on working at that, and that's what my thoughts are about the Pirates in the past week.
Well, I'll tell you what. The Mayan calendar says that the world's going to end this December. I don't put much stock in that, but the Washington Nationals are in first place. The Baltimore Orioles and the Pittsburgh Pirates are both in second place. It very well may be the end of the world.
Well, part of what you have, though, in spite of our optimism with the Pirates, is you have such a weak division. I mean, who would think? We hardly ever beat the Brewers. I think we had a record of 5-48, and all of a sudden we win 2 out of 3, and we're superstars. The batting average is you can't survive a season batting in the low 200s. I mean, that's reality. You might be able to linger along here for a while because everybody else is so weak, but we do need a little offense. And I'm not going to eat any more of that humble pie with our man Alvarez there, because I saw that before, and he's just proven me right here. I think he should just sit down in the minors, collect those millions, and then maybe he'll want to get back up to the big game up here. And then the other guy, isn't this interesting? Tabata has an injury that sometimes he can run flat out. Other times he doesn't. Now, any of you guys that have played sports, when you have a hamstring problem, I don't think you can do that each game. And how come he can run in the outfield as fast as you can and get to a ball, and then he hits a ball that's going out to the outfield and it goes over a guy's head, and he's not even at first base when it passes the guy's head and he gets a triple. Now, I'm just bringing up a couple points here, but I think he should sit down with Alvarez and they should count their millions. That'd be more fun than watching him play.
What do you guys think about the annual draft was yesterday, and the Pirates have not always done very well in the draft. What do you think of the first-round pick, a pitcher from Stanford?
Well, one of the things that every organization needs is you can't have enough young pitching talent. And, and to speak to the draft just in general, I was reading an article this past week regarding the 10-year follow-up to the steroid issue from Sports Illustrated. And one of the things that they say that struck me is that 90% of the guys that get drafted in Major League Baseball or make it to the minor leagues don't ever make it to the major leagues. And I was just surprised that such a high percentage of people that get drafted never even make the major leagues. That kind of surprised me.
Well, a lot of that's been obvious for so many years. The draft, they're trying to make it like the NBA and the NFL. It never has held that type of acclaim, nor should it. It's a big publicity stunt. These kids that play baseball, as you know, growing up in Little League, some kids are ahead of each other. That they're a foot taller than some guys, and they're hitting the ball out of the park. Then a guy like Smoking Jim Frazier starts to grow up, and he's faster than everybody. So, I mean, those type of things happen, and then who's going to be the superstar? Sometimes those big kids, they don't last that long. And when you're 17, 18 years old, there's very few that can make it to the major leagues. It is a special group of people that can do that. And to put all the millions there, God bless the people that are getting those millions because they're set for life.
Do you think it's a better strategy to draft guys out of college, like the pitcher from Stanford?
Yes.
Even though the pitcher from Stanford is probably going to go into the draft again next year and not sign with the Pirates?
Yes, that's a gamble, though.
That'll be a gamble, and the Pirates
Right.
aren't going to be able to open up the bank books like they have the last few years because the Major League Baseball's passed that rule so that teams can't do what the Pirates have been doing for the last few years, stockpiling all that talent in the minors.
All that great talent that we have.
That hasn't made it to the majors yet.
I think one of the reasons that so many people don't make it into the major leagues is because of all the major sports, baseball is the least physically taxing. People play a lot longer in baseball. We have 41, 45-year-old guys still playing. And also, baseball teams can draft from just about anywhere. They don't just draft from college. They'll draft from high school. They'll draft from the backyard. They'll draft from other countries. In the NFL, almost everybody that's drafted is playing in a American college. Hockey's a little different, but again, it's a more physically taxing game. A hockey player's career is not as long as a baseball player's career. So, spots open up quicker for them. And Al, as far as, the Pirates are doing great, but comparing them to Milwaukee isn't the same as it was last year. Prince Fielder's no longer there. Ryan Braun's no longer juiced up. It's a different team.
Hold it. I think he's still on the testosterone helping things, because you can do that naturally. Just eat some cauliflower, broccoli, and a few other things. Stay off the soy. There's a little tips to keep your testosterone up. Little health tip off the subject.
Speak to Jim's point. Is it better to draft somebody out of college into baseball than high school? And I believe yes, it is, because if you drafted somebody out of college, I think that they'll make it to the majors sooner than if you draft an 18-year-old. You draft an 18-year-old, you're looking at least 3 to 4 years before he's even going to see. So basically the time he would have played in college is going to be spent traveling around in buses in the minor leagues. So it makes better sense to draft that way. And with hockey, you can see very talented young hockey players coming in 18, 19 years old, coming in and being able to make an impact in the NHL. There's some players that were that gifted, Sidney Crosby being one. But, you don't see like 18 or 19-year-olds other than the NBA coming and making any kind of an impact in any of the other sports. You don't see too many 18-year-olds on major league rosters playing well. They got Bryce Harper down in Washington, and, he's a rare, unique talent. But, could you imagine what would happen to an 18-year-old on an NFL roster? Get eaten up alive.
Speaking of Sidney Crosby, he looked good at the Los Angeles Kings game. I know Los Angeles Kings is doing it. I think most of us predicted how hot they were.
Well, they're up 3-0. I think they're a lock for the cup at this point. I'm just totally surprised at the run that they've put together for these playoffs.
Well, again, they're getting a lot of puck luck. The pucks do go in for them, but they are playing a nice high-speed game, and they played some great defense, and Quick's playing lights out as a goaltender, so you do have to appreciate that.
He's got a 1.44 goals against this playoff run. He's basically shutting the door on everybody.
Before the playoffs started, I predicted that a team would win the Stanley Cup in 18 games. Wasn't the Kings, but it looks like they may do it.
That's amazing. Only 18. That's awesome.
And to speak to the team that we had picked to win the Cup, the Penguins signed Vaughn as the backup goaltender, and Ray Shero said that, because of the way Brent Johnson and the other young gentleman whose name escapes me, weren't performing up to snuff, that, Fleury got burned out. And I remember back in February where we were talking about, worrying about Fleury, getting burned out and being used up before the playoffs. Now, what happened to the Penguins against the Flyers totally was not Marc-Andre Fleury's fault. The defense just completely forgot to play defense. It was a twofold problem. Yeah. Fleury didn't play very well, and the defense played even worse. So, but we'll see if maybe this will make some kind of an impact on the team moving forward into next year.
Well, it'll help.
It was a nice signing, or a nice trade, I guess. They got him for a 7th-round draft pick, which usually doesn't pan out to be all that important. But it's way too late. I think everybody knew before the trade deadline that they needed a backup goalie. That's probably the only thing that they needed, and Shero failed to do that, although there were a few decent goalies available. So it certainly would have helped the team a lot if he had made that move then. Right now, he's still got a lot of problems on the coming up. He's got to sign a bunch of players and has no idea what the collective bargaining agreement is going to bring. So sure is in a bad spot right now as far as what can he do. But the Stanley Cup playoffs have been very entertaining even without the Penguins, especially the finals. Personally, I like the New Jersey Devils. a lot, but they're just being way outplayed, way outcoached, and it's been a great series to watch. And I believe that Los Angeles will probably close them out in the fourth game, get the sweep and win the cup. But I think the Penguins, in order for the Penguins to get there, they are going to need to make a couple of drastic moves, I believe.
Well, I think some of it might have to be with defense, because when you watch some of these guys, that clutching and grabbing come back. Having the defense go up the ice like Bausma, his system there, it's not working during these type of playoffs. That's one of the things that I noticed, just as an amateur here. But I can see that they do a lot of that holding now, and I thought that was outlawed for a while, at least early in the season. But they did let that come back, and that's where they sort of let Fleury down there. So,
well, one of the things that I, looking back at the way the Penguins played this year, and the end of the regular season and into the playoffs, the short run spat that they had there. Back when the Penguins were making the Stanley Cup Finals in 08 and 09. Everybody was throwing their bodies in front of pucks. They were doing anything they could to stop a puck, and I didn't see people trying to block shots like they did in the past. And
there were too many breakaways. Chipper, there were too many breakaways.
Well, there's a lot of breakdowns, but it didn't seem like they had the heart to want to try to stop the other team from scoring. They figured, if I let them score, we can go ahead and score too, and that's that process failed for them.
You hit the nail on the head. That's part of, they thought we could outscore anybody depending on what happened there, and it didn't work out that well.
Well, if you had watched any of the playoffs after the Penguins were eliminated, you'll see that the teams like New Jersey and Los Angeles and even the Rangers, they will go into the corners, dig for pucks, fight for the pucks. They'll go, along the boards. They fight for the pucks. You didn't see any of that from the Penguins this year in the playoffs, although you saw a lot of it during the regular season. In the playoffs, he kind of disappeared. They lost all of those battles, and sometimes didn't even battle for the pucks in the corners. And that, I believe, is pretty much where they lost, even though, again, like Chip said, the defense kind of disappeared. But they lost their heart for hard work, it looked like, once they started in the playoffs. That has to change, or they'll never win again.
Point well taken.
And it's a shame, because they have the talent to win again and again. They just, in order for the talent to work, you have to put a lot of hard work behind it.
And I absolutely agree with that. And a big problem that we've got now is that how many years of some of the best talent in hockey history that we've got on this team that we wasted. And how many more opportunities are we going to get? We've blown a couple of very, very good opportunities. This year's team, by rights, the Penguins should be vying for the cup right now, and they completely blew it. And before long, the team's going to get blown up because there's going to be salary cap issues, and we're going to be back at square one.
Well, speaking of the playoffs, San Antonio Spurs finally lost a game, and another one, and another one. Right now, the Oklahoma City Thunder are up, 3 games to 2?
3-2.
Yeah.
And could possibly close out in the next game, although, I like San Antonio. I think they've got a great team. I think they won't go quietly. And on the other side, the Celtics and the Heat tied 2-2. I know that certain people here believe that the Heat are the best team and can win it all. They may have the best players, but they might have the best head cases too. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. Jim, what do you think?
Well, I took a lot of heat, not only here.
No pun intended.
But a lot of places, because I like the Oklahoma Thunder over San Antonio. I thought it'd take a couple games to get acclimated to that pick and roll. It's really tough. Parker's a very good point guard. Doesn't make great decisions. Anytime you divorce a lady from Desperate Housewives, you don't make good decisions. But Westbrook and Durant are just on a whole nother level, and they possibly could win the NBA championship. San Antonio will go quietly, just like Tim Duncan. They're going back to Oklahoma, and it should be a rout. But the Heat is a little bit disappointment to me. LeBron James had a chance with 6 seconds to go to drive to the basket and put the game away. It was tied, and he passed the ball with 6 seconds to go. And I still believe that LeBron James is the second greatest player of all time next to Wilt Chamberlain. But he's definitely, you can just see that he has a big game disease, doesn't play well in the big games. He's not hitting his free throws, but they could get Bosh back as early as next game. If I was the coach, I would not play Bosh until the championship series. I think that they can beat Boston, even if it goes to 7 games without Bosh. I would keep him healthy until, because you're going to need him against Oklahoma, who's look like they're going to have a few games rest, getting ready for that championship series. So basketball's alive and well. I'm disappointed in San Antonio because all season long, Shenley High School great and Pitt All-American DeJuan Blair was a starter. I don't know if he's in the doghouse. I don't know what happened, but they're not playing him. But as soon as he got in the game a few games ago, he played for 10 minutes, scored 12 points, had 10 rebounds, and then went right back to the bench. So
I think he's in the doghouse because he missed 2 series or something. He didn't play the one series at all.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's something going on there. Maybe, who knows?
Well, the interesting thing about tonight's game with the Heat and the Celtics is I think we're going to find out, what kind of a Heat team that we're going to have, because I think, that if they start facing adversity earlier, they're going to start sniping at each other, and then you're going to see people arguing with the coach. And I think the Celtics had a very good game plan the last couple of games where what they're doing is they're focusing on Dwayne Wade. And, they figure this is a two-headed monster, we're going to work on this one. And they left it up to LeBron. And as Jim said, LeBron has a history of not showing up and deciding games.
But there was a difference, though. They did let him shoot, and he did take a shot right before the overtime where he could have won it, and it hit nothing but the rim. And then he did it again 3 other times in overtime. Because I'm watching it, because I'm a Heat guy. I'm looking for LeBron not to choke. I mean, I had apples lined up on my coffee table just for him to take, and he ate every one of them. We're all out of apples there. So that's what happened. And he was trying this time. He even asked for the ball in overtime. So Smoking Jim, I think he was just warming up and practicing for when it gets serious here. So he can be the second best all-time basketball.
I don't know about that. Like Jim said, six seconds left. He wanted to pass the ball off. Isn't that a repeat of what he did last year?
Well, that was in one of the games, but he did shoot with about 2 seconds left in the game with
last
overtime.
year with the championship on the line, he didn't want the ball at all. Maybe he is the second greatest player in history. I don't know. Maybe he's the second greatest player on his team. I don't know. But Dwayne Wade's a pretty good player. But a guy who wants to win championships usually is a guy who wants the ball at the end.
Look at the standard. You look at Michael Jordan. Look at Kobe Bryant. Those are the guys that, again, when come crunch time, you can't get the ball away from them, and that's the difference between a champion and a wannabe.
I guess Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant could be the standard. If you took their 2 best games and added them together, they'd probably break 100. But I think Wilt Chamberlain has to be the standard because you don't have to add his 100 to anything.
And I got to agree with you. Wilt
we all
was
agree
an
on that
amazing athlete. The only problem is that most of the people that probably even watching our show never even saw Wilt play.
That's too bad.
No, we have an older crowd on some of it. A couple of the guys in the supermarkets and shopping centers, they were in their 80s. And they want to know where you guys come up with all this stuff. How come we're so smart? They won't even call in. 412-831-3304. Give us a call. What's on your mind?
What was they ordering at the deli?
Some ham and cheese.
Head cheese.
But a quick shout out to a couple professional boxers here in the area that went down the area and represented southwestern Pennsylvania real well. Heavyweight Fred Latham had his professional boxing debut. Only took him 45 seconds to knock out a tomato can down in the area. So he's 1-0, and he's already proclaiming that he'll be the next king of the world in the heavyweight division. And a female boxer who didn't get an opportunity to fight a lot in the last couple of years locally because everybody was ducking her. Probably the second most renowned female boxer in this area next to Tika Hemingway is Samantha Griffith, and she had a knockout down in the area. And so we're looking for some great things in boxing out of these fighters in southwestern Pennsylvania. And what do you guys think about boxing compared to MMA? I'm hearing a lot of boxers starting to make the crossover to MMA. One is Lightning Rod Salka, who won 88 wrestling matches in high school, and he's thinking about, and then he's only lost one as a professional boxer, and he's thinking about doing both, boxing professionally and MMA. What do you guys think of that?
Well, I think the MMA has a lot of popularity with the younger guys, and plus the betting. I hear there's a tremendous amount of wagering going on in the MMA.
Really?
Yeah, there's people that even have websites for that, and they'll tell you who to bet and the odds and how to make money. Because I hear a lot of younger people that are betting that, and it's very popular.
Wow.
Yeah, so that'll be the coming trend. You might be riding a wave there. Some of your boxing buddies are just going to stay with that. And they get a lot of TV exposure, too. So I think that's what's going to help promote that and propel it.
Al, that's the dumbest thing that I've ever heard. Honest to God, I mean, you might be right, but to bet on MMA, you might as well bet on WWE, because those matches are so easily fixed. Honest to God, that's. I mean, betting on pro boxing is pretty bad too.
Well,
but to bet on the MMA stuff, somebody would have to be a moron.
Well, you just called millions of people morons, and I hate to offend morons like that, and to just report on what people do. I mean, that's what opinions are, folks. Call in. You can join the conversation here. That's what's going on in the country. He might have missed the show.
Well, it's not a matter of whether or not they're doing it. I didn't say they don't do it. I just said they're morons for doing it. And as far as calling a million people morons, that's only half my quota for the day.
I think
that's why we have opinions
here. I think
here.
the allure of the MMA is that there's so much action in such a short period of time. Very violent sport, and then blood cells. Any
concussions in that sport.
In boxing matches, there are some fighters that use the elusive path. They just try to not get hit and run around the ring, and those kind of fights. I guess there's a beauty to that, but they're not very much fun to watch. But you watch the MMA, they go out there, they gouge people's eyes, they choke hold them, they're kicking them in the head, kneeing them. There's as far as seeing action and violence, it gives it to you.
Well, plus it brings out Mad Max and the Thunderdome with Tina Turner. If you go back, I think they're just copying. They grew up with that stuff, so they think it's natural, and that's probably why it's so dumb to us.
It's very violent. I mean, they try to present it as being fairly organized and stuff. On a different show, Jim and I had a couple of MMA fighters on once. A guy was sitting there talking about his next fight was going to be a title fight, and I asked him, how many fights have you had? 3. After 3 fights, he's getting a title shot. I mean,
wow. MMA guys calling in. They got a bet on the line. Oh man, here we got bet.
Hello. Welcome to Pittsburgh Sportsline. Yes, hello. Welcome to Pittsburgh Sportsline. Good.
Top one.
Hold on one second.
Top one. Oh. The one where the arrow's at. The top one.
Yeah.
Do you hear us?
Hello?
Hello? Oh, well, sorry about that. Try again if you're watching. I guess I wasn't supposed to pick up the phone. We have very few calls, so didn't really know what to do with that.
Okay.
But
you were talking about the fighter that three professional fights and he's fighting for a title.
Right. Well, I mean, how realistic is that? You don't see that happen in boxing.
He doesn't pay any dues.
Well, I mean, not only that, but how desperate does MMA or how desperate do these things have to be putting a guy into a title fight with only three matches? The other thing, as far as Altaka Salka, his MMA career will be very short. Guy doesn't like to get hit. Oh, hopefully that's our call back. Hello, welcome to Pittsburgh Sportsline.
Hi. Am I on the air?
Yes, do you hear us?
Oh, I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Okay, you're on.
Oh, okay. Hey guys, I just wanted to say I like the show. My name's Michael, and I had a couple questions for your the Pirate Prophet there. First question I had is Presley came back up, and they sent down Hernandez. I just want to know what he thought about that.
Well, I think Presley is a good addition to the outfield. I think they need to do something, get a little bit more speed, get things mixing up. Presley did a very good job last year, batting at the top of the order, and I think he could be a nice asset for them.
Yes, that's how I feel too. I think they should bring him up and leave him up. But my big controversial thing is, I know how you feel about the youth of the team and preserving that and promoting from within. But I think it's time that they trade Hanrahan and they bring in somebody that can hit the ball. They could use someone at first base. I don't care, shortstop, even third base. What do you think about trading Hanrahan for some young bats?
Right now, I wouldn't do it. Right now, Hanrahan can close the door. You've got a lead going into the ninth inning, and you can wrap up that win. There is no guarantee that they're going to get a red hot hitter for Hanrahan. Nobody's going to give up more than what they're going to get back from him, and I just don't think that would be a wise decision at this point.
I just think with Rivera going down at the Yankees, I think the Yankees could probably we could find something in their club. I mean, they've taken our players enough. Maybe it's time we start taking theirs. And honestly, Hanrahan scares the heck out of me every time he gets on the mound. If you saw last game, home run, walked a guy, 3 balls. He had to, they got to keep going out and settle him down. I think with all those young arms we have, I think this might be the time to pull the trigger on that.
Everybody's entitled to their opinion. I personally wouldn't give up on Hanrahan right now, and I don't think that they would get equal value back out of him as he stands.
Well, with everything that you and I've talked about, you've been right a lot more than I have. So I think we should probably go with that then. So thanks, guys.
Hey, thanks for calling in.
All right, Michael, thanks for calling.
All right, take care.
All right, well, thanks for calling, Michael. Anybody else that's watching, feel free to call in, give us your opinion. We'll tell you if you're right or wrong. Well, again, as far as we were talking about the MMA, I don't think that it's going to have as long a lifespan as boxing does. I think that eventually it will burn out. Right now, it's kind of an anomaly, a novelty. But I don't think that it
What
will
are
carry
the purses, Mike, that they go for? Do you know?
I don't know that. I can't imagine that they're making as much as Manny Pacquiao is going to make Saturday night.
Right.
But again, boxing's been around a lot longer. It's always going to have a bigger following. I think that as far as betting on, even the bet on a professional boxing match is crazy because it's so easily fixed or swayed. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is.
Well, I gotta disagree a little bit. I think some of the MMA guys are making more than Floyd Mayweather Jr. is making. He's making $1 a day while he's in jail right now.
Smoking, But who's he like in the latest MMA championship boxing or match there, or whatever bout?
Hopefully he's not waking up every morning wrestling.
He might be making only $1 a day now, but that's residuals off not his last fight, but the fight before when he was able to knock out both his girlfriend and her little girl in the same match. So Floyd's earned that money. Now, again, we do have a fight coming up with Manny Pacquiao and a guy named Bradley. Bradley's undefeated. Not a lot of fights so far. It's Manny Pacquiao. I think that he will probably win this fight fairly easily. Again, the big fight that everybody wants to see is Pacquiao and Mayweather. But again, like as Chip just said, I doubt we're ever going to really see that one. Freddie Latham's a pretty good fighter. I don't know if he's ready to be taking on Klitschko just yet.
He's got one fight under his belt. He can do it.
Well, if this was MMA, we're talking about he may get that shot.
Oh, I didn't know we switched up. What sport is this now?
Well, getting back to the boxing and the Mayweather Pacquiao, Mayweather's never going to fight Pacquiao because the only thing Mayweather could do is lose if he fought Pacquiao, because they fight even. Then everybody's going to say Mayweather's not as good as he gets beat by Pacquiao, which is what I think would happen. He loses all his credibility and all his big money fights are gone. I mean, the thing he's got going for him right now, and the way that he can walk away from a fight with $32 million in his pocket, and the guy that he fought, what did he get, $1.50? Whoever negotiated that for him, great job. You gotta love him. But I mean, once he gets in the ring with Pacquiao, he's going to be damaged goods, and he's not going to be able to bring in the dollars that he's bringing in now.
Well, to change subjects a little bit, I heard there was a Pittsburgh Passion game the other night, and they suffered their first loss. Smoking Jim, can you give us some details on that?
Well, I was a little concerned about the game. Pittsburgh Passion was playing their nemesis and rival, the DC Divas.
Wow.
And in the first game of the season, the Passion beat the Divas in DC 35-34. DC Divas came back with revenge on their mind, and the Passion was up 21-14. Going into the fourth quarter, but gave up 21 unanswered points to the Divas. So the Pittsburgh Passion right now has an uphill battle if they want to play for the Super Bowl, which is going to be at Heinz Field on August 4th. So,
well, the first time they played the Divas, actually, the Passion had to intercept a pass in the end zone with time running out to wrap up the win, where they beat them 35-34. Well, the Divas are the defending champions, and that's the measuring stick. So, they got a little work to do, and it's good to know that now instead of getting tattooed in the playoffs where you're one and done.
Good call.
That's true. So what do they have to do to get into the playoffs then? Does this knock them out of potential playoffs?
No, they'll be in the playoffs as long as they continue to win, which they will. They're very focused. And once the playoffs start, it opens up to, all the great teams in different conferences all over the country. So, but you, like Chip said, you want to go into the playoffs as the number one seed, other than the second or third or fourth seed. It makes it a little tougher. You get more home games if you're number one seed, but they can do it. They did it before. They're national champs in 2007, so I think the team that they have this year is just as good as that team.
Well, isn't their quarterback back now? Lisa Horton?
Yeah, Lisa Horton is back, and she's firing on all cylinders. I still haven't seen her throw the deep ball.
Well, that was the Techno Grannies report there about the deep throw. So you're watching that exclusively off the tower.
Yeah, so she's been chucking and ducking like Andrew Luck.
Well, the Passion, they won the national title in 2007, but they have had the last few years early exits from the playoffs, and they had, going in the one year they didn't have any losses, and they get into the playoffs and they lose one early. So it's going to be interesting to see this year what they can do once they get into the playoffs.
Good point.
Well, we wish them well.
Absolutely, behind them 100%.
Very, very rarely that I concur with rooting for a Pittsburgh football team, but I would like to see the Passion go all the way.
So this weekend we got a big horse race coming up. Let's get our man Alan here talking horses.
Wow.
The Belmont Stakes is going to be run on Saturday. We've got the potential for a Triple Crown winner. First time in, 34
years.
34
like
years?
Mike was bringing up all the stats last week. He was well informed. I appreciated that show. And I stand corrected on Bodemeister. He wimped out. He didn't want to be like the Alliar and Affirmed race where he was a 3-time loser. So he decided to bow out. And I'm still in the camp that we're going to see a Triple Crown winner here. I'll have another, I think, can close again. And Doulahan's going to be a tough competition. And the gray or the white horse that they see coming down the end, Union Rags, I love the name. I think that might be on your ticket there too.
Alan, I got a question for you as far as the race goes. Now, is there going to be horses running in the Belmont Stakes that didn't run in the Derby
Yes.
and the Preakness? See, personally, this is just my humble opinion, but I don't think that should be right. I think that the horses that should run for the Triple Crown should have to run all 3 races to be eligible to be in the Belmont, because somebody can sit on a horse and say, oh, okay, look, this horse has a chance to win it, and I can screw them over by bringing my horse in and taking him away from it.
That's why it's so hard.
Right to me.
That's why it's so hard in this modern era, I guess you could call it. Because only certain horses are eligible. They qualify by certain races and Grade 1 races, and they pay certain fees to get in. So only a certain amount of people can even afford it. It's basically a rich man's sport. So it's a tough thing there. So there's a lot of limits there. And then this is very hard for thoroughbreds. They're not used to, like the standard breds, when you guys come out to the night at the races next week, not to go into that promotion, but you'll see a different type of horse. They can race every week. The thoroughbreds cannot race every week. So it's very hard. They're very fast. They're faster than the standard breds. Of course, they don't have a bike. But there's a lot of training and there's a lot of little things that go on. When you see a horse's leg and their hoofs and everything, they're so small, and it's like your wrist and hand. Well, not Smoking Jim. He's a big man there. But they're actually very fragile in certain things, and so many things that can happen. So some of these guys pick their strategy. They know they're not going to win a Triple Crown, but they like the Belmont or they like the Preakness. And some of the breeding on the horses, you can study programs, but you got to study the father and the mother, the horses going back a couple generations. And a lot of them breed for the longer races. And some of these horses, depending on when they're born, some horses are born in April, May, June, and the ones that are born a little later mature later. So that's why some of these horses, if you look the month that they're born, if they're a June horse, they may not start racing till June that well, because they push these 2-year-olds. They'll race 1 or 2 times. Like you guys talk about MMA for championships. Some of these horses race 2 or 3 times, and that's it for their juvenile season as a 2-year-old. Then they come out as a 3-year-old. They've grown bigger, they're muscled up, but then they're only racing 5 or 6 times, and they have to do 3 races, Chip, in 6 weeks, which is hard on any horse. And a lot of these horses can't race more than a race or 2 after that because they've been so soared up as athletes there.
Well, I appreciate your insight on that. Now, and I don't know enough about horse racing. That's why I've never bet on horse racing, because there's a
don't
lot,
bet the house on this race.
There's a lot to know, and before I would do anything like bet on anything, I'd want to understand all the nuances, and and other than watching a handful of races the year, actually, we're probably watching the last 100 yards of it. I don't really pay much attention to
the horse race, actually, there's a lot of strategy on post position, where you come off of the gate, and you can see statistics, and you can learn all this stuff. But I've been at the track, and I'll tell people, you can handicap. I've had people show me how to handicap certain things. But here's what I ask people. What's your favorite name? What's your favorite color? What number do you like? And I've seen people win big money just doing that. So, Chip, you don't really have to know much, but if you do, you can make a lot of money. And some of these guys are really good at this handicapping, just like I was telling you.
Well, give me that standard bred that the Long Ranger rode.
Yeah.
He rode that horse every day. Not these horses that only got 6 races in their whole career.
Well, come out to the Meadows. My man, you're the best straight man here on the show. You could come out to the Meadows. We'll go down to the winner's circle and get Smoking Jim Frazier there. Come on down. You'll see these athletic horses.
If you just want to have some fun and put down a bet, grab a name you like or whatever, or I'll have another because he's going for the Triple Crown. Put $2 across on him, $6. Who knows? Might come back. If he wins, you might get 7 back.
Well, here, the biggest fan, my biggest fan bet. I'll have another when he was number 19 horse. She listened to me, $2 across, $6, won $55.40. So her net win was $49.40. Shout out to Hope there. That's how you do it.
That gets you a lot of breakfast at the Cozy.
He probably won't
Cozy
be that long a
Cafe.
shot this year, this week. He probably won't be that long a shot this week.
No.
But as far as, they don't put their horses into basically to where we said screw over the guy going for the Triple Crown.
Yes, they do.
I'm always the cynic.
Some horses are
Chip, some of them they
some
do.
are built to go for distance. Some are built to go for speed. Doulahan, who I think will win the Belmont, had no chance to win the Preakness because it's the shortest race. and he's just
Kentucky
not
Derby.
that fast.
The Kentucky Derby, you mean?
No, the Derby.
He had too much traffic, Doulihan.
Well, he wasn't in the Preakness. He stayed out of the Preakness.
Yeah, you said Preakness by mistake.
No, I said he wasn't. He didn't run in the Preakness because it's a shorter race. It's the shortest race.
The Preakness isn't the shortest. The Derby is.
Derby's a mile and a quarter.
And then
Preakness is a mile and 3/16.
We'll figure it out. I'm not the genius here on the table, folks.
Okay, well, take it from the genius. 3/16 is less than a mile and a quarter. Okay, 4/16 is a quarter.
Okay.
But anyway, regardless of that, he's a horse that will probably do better in the distance than in a shorter race. So I mean, strategically, why put him in that race? Why pay that entry fee when you're not gonna win that and you know it? So put him in the Belmont where he has an opportunity. Union Rags also did not run in the Preakness. Bodemeister is not going to run in the Belmont. Who knows if I'll Have Another had won the Derby and not the Preakness, who knows if he'd be running in this one. But if you have a chance to win the Triple Crown, you run in anything.
Well, I'll Have Another is Jacksonville Jaguars first round draft choice Justin Blackman, who got his second DUI in the last 3 years. He blew a
.24.
three times the legal limit. So and Jacksonville's had hard luck on their first round draft choices. They seem to all like to have another.
Hard luck on wide receivers
Yeah,
too.
yes.
Hard luck.
Well, I mean, what kind of research did they do on him? I mean, if you looked at the way he behaved in college, this is no big surprise. You're giving the kid a bunch of money. I don't even know if he's even been signed or anything. But, what'll happen is somebody will get him into some kind of a program and he'll find God or whoever it is that, he needs to find that'll keep him from being incarcerated. And he'll say he's a changed man. But,
Well, that gets back to our
Zebras
Steeler
don't
guy.
change their stripes.
That gets back to Mike Adams then. What do you guys think about that? Some of us have said maybe he'll do it. Some of us have said...
Well, I mean, look what we said about Santonio Holmes when he first came to Pittsburgh out of Ohio State. I mean, he came in with a lot of baggage, but
and he left with it too.
Yeah, but he helped us win a title, so we overlooked that. But I mean, he ended up being the problem that that we thought he was going to be. Just give him enough rope, and he hung himself.
You might talk about baggage with Santonio Holmes. He came in with a U-Haul and left with 2 Mayflowers. But he was also
How many
Super Bowl
families?
MVP.
Yeah. No, and you put a ring on, put a championship trophy in the case. Opinions change about you.
Even
Not
Mike,
for long because
Mike will
wore
agree
out his
that
welcome.
guys win a Super Bowl or two, they may not bring up all his dirty laundry out there.
I certainly wouldn't go into a bathroom with a guy who's won a couple Super Bowls.
You don't want to give Mike Adams too much rope because he's already the rope-a-dope.
We'll have to wait and see what happens there, right? He's soft, right?
It was written right up on the board in the Steelers war room. Soft. And they drafted him anyway. And the number one NFL scout in the world said he's not a good pick.
Yeah, thanks, Magic. And like you said on draft day, Magic, the reason the Steelers drafted him was he said the magic words, "I will forego my signing bonus." That's money on the wood is always good.
Wow, let me quote you on that one.
If we'd all play for $5 a game, we'd be their offensive line.
Mike's still holding out for that $1 million.
And Ben would still be limping.
Ben may be going for his PhD right now. I think I just seen his wife log on the computer.
Well, how's he doing with this new playbook that's so complex because things are like the opposite, they're all saying. So what's Todd Haley doing? They said different calls are the actual opposite of what they did before. So who's going to win this tug of war?
Well, the Steelers,
Haley, the best dressed guy on the team, or Big Ben, and whatever you want to say
well,
about
the
him.
Pittsburgh Steelers are doing a great job. They're going to use a fullback in their offense and convert it tight end to play fullback. So, those guys are real funny. I would hate a converted tight end have to be my lead blocker. I tell you that for sure.
Maybe it's a bubble screen play. They might throw that notorious bubble screen out there to him. Right? He's a tight end. We don't have Hines Ward anymore. Who's taking his place?
Well, I will boycott NBC because they hired Hines Ward to do their pre-game and post-game package on NBC. So I will boycott that for a year until Hines get fired, just like Jerome Bettis and Tiki Barber did.
You think that's a tradition now? That
Honest to God, you think it'll last a year?
They usually let you.
You might smile a lot.
Yeah, they usually let you go a year.
Done.
Yeah.
Any signing bonus with that? He might need it. But somebody was saying on one of the talk shows that I don't recall, The Fan or something, that they were talking about how Hines actually presented himself very well in a couple of the interviews and when he did his performance before the owners or whoever hired him. They said he was actually a lot better than people thought. So maybe he can do something.
Well, you know what, now that we brought up football again, you know, I thought there was kind of an interesting ruling in this bonus gate thing. An arbitrator ruled that Roger Goodell actually does have the authority to discipline players. And I'm glad they decided that, because I'm going to sleep so much better tonight. You know?
Yeah, that's brilliant. But they're appealing it, just so you know.
Yeah, they're appealing that as they're appealing everything else. They say that there's a ledger that's got the records of all the payments, but you know, everybody will want to see the proof. Well, you know, your name's in the ledger, but you know,
we just can't show you.
So they brought in an arbitrator to decide whether or not the commissioner of football can be the commissioner of football.
Yeah, okay, if he has the authority to discipline players, because you know they thought that maybe they worded the collective bargaining agreement so that any of the things that they had done in the past they couldn't be punished for. But I just thought it was actually comical that you know they made headlines out of this, that somebody determined that the commissioner of professional football can discipline players. I mean, brilliance, absolute brilliance.
Yeah, but just think what you have involved. You have lawyers and more money going around back and forth. That's what they're doing. They just signed this deal.
You think about all the headlines coming out of professional football this offseason. None of it has been about football. I mean, you know, we could be talking about Peyton Manning and how he's going to run the Broncos offense. We could talk about the quarterback controversy in the New York between Sanchez and Tebow. I mean, we could talk about, you know, Alex Smith, you know, having his feathers ruffled because Jim Harbaugh was flirting with, Peyton Manning before he signed with the Broncos. And then, you know, Jim Harbaugh had to reiterate his position that, Alex Smith was always going to be our starting quarterback. We were just looking to see, how Peyton Manning was doing or what he looked like. And then if Alex Smith was the guy they were going to sign from the start, why didn't they?
I'd rather talk about Ryan Tannehill's wife, who's always seemed to be naked.
Well, Jim, we'll talk about her
That'll be
next week. Bring some pictures.
Can you do some scouting on that?
Guys, thanks a lot. It's been a good show. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week on Pittsburgh Sportsline.